I apologize. I did not realize the time has been slipping away from me all day. But welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon of the Bible. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they're willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. It's an honor to have the famous Randy from Wisconsin special guest host tonight, and also another special guest host, Joaquin. He gets paid to go to school because he can run fast. Uh, from the famous, it used to be like the New York Yankees, where they won more national champions at track for the cross country than any other college in the world. So it's quite a tradition. This almost was going to be the Colorado Springs Alamosa because it's the same, elevation. And that's what they want their lungs to be like, used to,
Oh
and stuff like that. So the show today, I gave the message to the famous Randy that it was going to be on Margret Mitchell. I met Margaret Mead talking about Anthropologists, but you know how the Lord works. I had a notebook and all I did was write down Margaret Mitchell, and then I also put down island culture, but that's not really the lost cause. If we have time to look at the island culture, if anybody knows anything about Samoa, oh, you know what? Margaret Mead is going to take care of that island culture because she's famous because she's a liar.
Okay.
I'm going to give him a spoiler alert. She's famous Ivy League school graduate. So that means she posed for those freshman nude pictures. All of the Ivy League schools did back then. She wrote a book about, because it looks like she was a lesbian. It's kind of historic fact. And she started pushing that. And so she was, during the beginning of the rewrite, after World War I and between World War II, she got her PhDs and she was studying. She's writing letters for magazines, getting famous, saying, I'm here in the islands of Tahiti and Samoa, and we'll find out what islands they actually were. And they just run around naked and they're happy and they're not ashamed and they just make love to whoever they want to. That's the way it should be because they don't listen to the missionaries that came here. And she got famous. She got on TV. She was the star. And then after she died, they found out she made up everything. And the people from Samoa started reading the book going like, what did she say? And they were all God-fearing people, and it was all a lie. They were totally into Christianity, and they were greatly offended. But she's going like, oh, not the ones I met, So it's a lie.
Yeah.
So we'll keep that in mind.
But it had readers that sold copies, and yeah.
Think about it, man. So let's see. Thank you, Marcella and Luther, for hopping on. Let's track some history, man. Lost cause Margaret Mitchell. So we'll get to her. We'll just have to go with the order, but looks like she was a beautiful movie star and an author. You ever hear of that book, Gone with the Wind? The most distinguished novel of 1936, more famous as a movie that starred the famous Clark Gable, all about the South. She was a lifelong resident of Georgia. Whoa, that's a big one. And she was struck and killed by a speeding drunk driver in 1949. It was very sympathetic to the South. I think her book, although it did, just talk about the horrors of it. I think, fellow narrow road Christians, we have to look at this is probably, that propaganda on the early way to go too. Uh, we're just not getting a lot of good things about the people from Scotland who settled here. I know that there are a lot of Calvinists and Presbyterians that we trace our heritage back to the Scottish, but boy, the more I learn, the more I doubt. So, one book. She only wrote one book, and that's what makes me suspicious. How do you write, you know, a masterpiece, Pulitzer Prize winner, and then you never follow it up, and it's always I don't think she wrote it. I think somebody else did. But that's me being suspicious, right, RJ?
Yeah, possibly. Sure.
Let's read a little bit. Blast from the past. The Atlanta Constitution reported that Maybelle Stevens and Eugene Mitchell were married at the Jackson Street mansion of the bride's parents. So they were rich. Mitchell was buried in Oakland Cemetery, maid of honor. Who cares? Her slippers describing her the elegant funeral. She had an elegant funeral.
Went out in style, eh?
Yeah, and the thing is, she was named Jimmy. Looks like little Jimmy. She was called Jimmy, wearing male clothing as a child all the time. Huh. Looked like a movie star, but she wanted to be a little boy. But they probably would have given her injections and helped her along her way today. What is this? They're trying to say that she didn't learn that the South actually lost the war until she was 10 years old. Wow.
Yeah.
How do you grow up in Georgia and not know you weren't on the winning side? Maybelle Mitchell was hissing blood curdling threats to her daughter to make her behave the evening she took her to a women's suffrage rally. Wow. Her daughter, you talk about raising your children the wrong way, forcing them, hissing blood curdling threats, go to a vote for women's rally, sit up on the platform wearing a vote for women, afraid you're going to get beat to death by your mother. Wow.
Well, she was white, correct?
She was very white. She was raised in an old affluent part of the city at the bottom of Jackson Hill. I'm thinking about singing that Johnny Cash song, We Got Married in a Fever, hotter than a pepper sprout. They were talking about Jackson ever since the fire went out, and in Georgia, southern Darktown. So, dang, sometimes my thing just goes crazy. Darktown, the Atlanta local white papers printed unfound rumors that several women had been assaulted, prompting an angry mob of 10,000 to assemble in the streets, pulling people from Mexico out into the street and killing them. Just saying that because my friend Joaquin has got relatives in Mexico, and I don't think anybody'd be pulling them out of the car. They're the big wigs down there, right? Anyway, you went down there. You just got back, right?
I've been, yeah, I've been going to Chihuahua and what's it called, the West Coast, 90. So 2 states.
They call it Chihuahua and the West Coast. I know it as the place where Pancho Villa ruled as governor they were trying to hash out. He almost became president. They even sent a famous World War I general, Blackjack Pershing, to go capture him. But that was the general's first failure. He couldn't catch him. Pancho Villa. This Gone with the Wind. While the South exists as a geographical region we've all heard about, and a lot of good things come out of there. I'm thinking of barbecue, and then that rolling tide football team that always is so good with the LSU Tigers barking at their heels all the time. least that's what those guys tell me that talk about football around here. Those are the good ones. Our football team here at the college, we did win a couple of games this year. So anyway, the one story, Margaret Mead, that's going to be more interesting. But I got to tell you about this lost cause because RJ, wait until you
Yeah.
see all of the monuments they built. You spell that Cause.
For Margaret?
No, for monuments. Yeah. Margaret Monument. I'm going to, let's see. So here we go. Lost Cause. It was the name of a movie, too. Pseudo historical and historical negationist. Huh. Denialism, falsification, distortion. It should not be conflated with historical revisionism, a broader term that extends to newly evidenced, fairly reasoned academic reinterpretations for history. I'm thinking they want a peer review on that. This is pretty much, you see the monument in the background?
Yep.
It's got to be fake.
What year is that?
This was the Civil War was 1961 to 1964. So
You mean it may have already existed,
Civil War.
or what are you implying?
Right, right. And so this could just be one of those great big rewrites, and to explain away what we call that antique architecture. What do they got on the top there? I mean, there's one of these in every town. Unless things were that screwed up, brother. I mean,
looks like a turkey with 4 legs. Yeah, yeah.
You know that people are going to write in the comments and say, that it's a phoenix. It's not an eagle. So the white, everybody talks about, well, the KKK, this or that and the other thing, but there were really only 4,000 KKK members because they only allowed 4,000. It was something that you paid, you could be a supporter of, but if you were a member, you were a big deal. And then the White League, I guess there were over 300 KKK types. It wasn't just one little group. He opposed the erection, no, not the erection of Confederate monuments that only recently are being taken down, because based on history. And the more I find out that if you're a black person and you get propped up in history, you have Prince Hall Freemason written all over you. And that even goes for the people who, when you read them, like Webb Du Bois or Langston Hughes, you think, wow, they're so right about everything. I think they're like Thomas Sowell today to try to just, yes, you've been so oppressed, but it's okay now. And if you can work your way to the top, here's a good example of we see these everywhere. Now, the number and how many, 25,000 people, they say, slept in tents just so that they could see the grand opening of one of their towers. And that is kind of what, before the whole golden age passed, the Star Fort mania, people lived in houses like this and built houses of scrap lumber and used pallets around existing fireplaces. That's what I'd do. I'd like to think would think of that. And here they are, the daughters of the revolution. Did they just recap?
So who's standing on top?
A rebel soldier, because this was all daughters of the Confederacy. And they put them everywhere, north and south. And the whole thing about American history, as soon as you get into even freshman college, they start saying, the freedom of the slaves only lasted from the end of the war, 1865, until 1878, when they had what's Reconstruction, and the South stopped participating. And they said, oh, what the heck did they say? Oh, we're just not going to comply to, uh, letting blacks vote. They had grandfather clauses that, you could vote if your grandfather had voted. Well, no blacks' grandfathers had voted. And so if you couldn't, if your grandparents didn't vote, then you had to take a test. And I guess it was really hard. But people will kick back and say, oh, no, they had it easy. It was a long time ago. Well, I want to tie in that their lost cause and white power, because of, it was genetics, it was eugenics, it was uh, Holocaust, it was white supremacy. That was it. That's what our country legally passed and lived by. Henry Ford was not a alone, he did everything great except, oh, he was a racist. Everybody was. He was just one of the rich guys that, they used. And these laws of segregated schools lasted until 1964. And you were considered black even if you looked like Taylor Swift. If you had a relative that was black, you had one drop of black blood, it wouldn't matter. So does that look like that kind of, I've seen other marble statues that wear down a lot faster. It's hard to tell. Is that supposed to be a defenseless? A lot of times you can track people, here's another one, principles, and it's a G, but there's an S. For states, they know how to use the S. No, principles, never mind, that's spelled right. Defenseless. I guess it's just a C instead of an S. That's right. Duh. I don't know. It could be. Or maybe that dedicates, oh, the war was 1860 to 1865. Huh? It's the picture. The picture on Wikipedia, some of them let you zoom in like crazy. And here you go. That's antique architecture. Was it really built for Robert E. Lee, or did they just add this plaque afterwards? Robert E. Lee, I'm a Southern boy, so could somebody get me a winged lion and with a great big embossed shield? Come on. These were the people that, wow, we don't have to use a muzzle loader anymore. So what is this is the construction photo? Okay. All right. If you say so. Look in the background. What's going on there? That's a star fort, baby. A big one.
Or a prison.
Let's just see where it says it is. This is the monument that was graffitied during the George Floyd protest, erected in Richmond, Virginia, 1890. I think it's been there since the time of Jesus, and it just got a little. Look at that. The Klansmen look like Greek-loving toga wearing. They're going to kill this person. That's what they do. They catch him and they kill him. That's from the movie Birth of a Nation, where a United States president is quoted in there saying that this movie is going to do more to help people be inspired to preserve the white race than any movie ever. It's actually used in the movie. So, The Lost Cause, something to think about. The Civil War, it just seems like another part of the cover up. All right, Margaret Mead, a cultural anthropologist, lived until, well, Randy, we were already out of high school.
Oh yeah.
Bernard College of Columbia University. Have you ever, they talk about that Columbia like the Statue of Liberty, Lady Liberty. That's really Columbia or ISIS or somebody, could be Matilda. So we don't know much about her yet. Communicator of anthropology, big on the TV, often controversial as an academic. Her reports detailing attitudes towards sex in the South Pacific and Southeast Asian traditional cultures, it made people in the United States believe that we were the only ones still being repressed by the Bible, that believed that you should have one wife for life. And, she lead the rest of her life as a proponent for broadening sexual conventions within the context of Western cultural traditions. Well, we didn't have the traditions they have today when we were children, but the children born today will have had these traditions all of their life. Exactly the way the people that right now are middle aged and abortion has been legal in this country, and they think it's constitutionally protected all of their lives. Hasta luego. Oh, no problem, man. Thank you for bringing that. All right, there goes co-host Joaquin. He is done. He's got to go. He's been busy working out. I don't know. There's track season never stops around here. They got winter track, spring track, of course, fall. They train in the summer, and that's pretty hot. You wouldn't think at 7,544 feet it would get hot, but it does. It gets smoking hot. DePaul University, Bernard College. She didn't like the church. She was born into a family of, wouldn't you be surprised to find out, various religious outlooks. So there was no real form of religion that would make her get a guilty conscience, brother, for lying about the people of Samoa and saying they're a bunch of whores.
Thought her old man was in finances, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Her father? I thought you might have scrolled past it, but
Oh, okay.
first of 5 children, born in Philadelphia. Her father, Edward Sherwood Mead, professor of finance.
That Wharton sounds familiar. It's in a private Ivy League school also, but established late in 1881, just in time for the Lost Cause to take off and say, we've got a bunch of statues we've got to explain away, man. Kind of like, hey, they're I don't know what her pronouns would be today. Pronouns around here at this university are taken very seriously by some. So you got to be on your watch. So she's not from Australia. She's from the United States. There she is again, sporting a nifty hairdo. Woo. Yikes, a Samoan girl that probably didn't want to dress like this, but had to get dressed up to say, this is your typical girl who likes to run around naked. You should too. There's the liar that wrote all the books. She probably won't get anything but praise. Her pediatrician was Benjamin Spock. Have you ever heard that about? He wrote the best-selling How to Raise a Child book of all times. He incorporated, her lies into. Well, I think he was the guy that said, "Do the timeout."
Okay, he wasn't on Star Trek then.
She looks like a man to me. I'm just saying that. Mead never openly identified as lesbian or bisexual. Her writings, she proposed that it is to be expected that an individual's sexual orientation may evolve throughout life. So I wonder where we heard that first. I'm not saying, because I've had some hustling, scrappy volleyball players named Margret. And so I don't want anybody to go like, well, we're picking on Margaret's tonight. It could seem like that because the two that we've looked at are sketchy. They're sketchy. They wouldn't have really liked to, it wouldn't have gone over well in public to admit and say a known lesbian, I think. But she did spend her last years in coast, found a personal relationship and collaboration with Rhonda, another prominent cross-cultural studier of different things. So we had 2 on Margaret Mead, probably 3. Just trying to open up. Let's see what some other. So here's a sample of her. Her mother was a scientist. I think you noted that, right, brother?
No, I didn't catch what her mother did. But
Okay, well, I think they were both scientists. Everything she ate, her outlook, her complexion, was she ruddy that day? I guess she filled 13 volumes of born December 16th, 1901, grew up in a household that included 3 generations, was the first of 5 children. She was a child of the progressive era when reformers felt flat earth was stupid. Making that a little easier for you to read there. As an adult, sought to apply the principles of anthropology and social sciences. I think those were, usually when people were coming over on the Mayflower, they didn't say, who wants to get paid to go to school to learn social science so you can tell us how to act? I think they were worried about not getting scalped and staying good friends with Squanto so he could help them grow the corn. Mead was
where
called.
the next meal was coming from, yeah.
Yeah, some of them didn't make that first winter, if you believe some of their history. And I'm thinking, some of the people living right now, might not live to be an old age because it seems like weird things are coming anyway. She was called Punk. That's what her father's affectionate nickname was. Her brother was born a little more than 2 years later, and he was called the Boy Punk. Now, they turned this into something. While she was known as the original Punk, this was, according to her, groundbreaking. And in her memoirs, Mead wrote, it was a reversal of the usual pattern, according to which the girl is only a female version of the true human being, the boy. So she's tried to, she's the genius. She went to school at Ivy League. And so now she's saying, oh, the usual pattern of a true human being was that a female was only a version of a boy. That's, that's tying in with what artificial intelligence is teaching today. This was all part of a plan. That's my
Well, that she wasn't homeschooled, was she? But, I mean, she must have got normalized somewhere.
well, at 6, her mom, when her mother learned that she was pregnant, she started keeping a diary of her state of mind and daily experience. She continued note taking after Margaret's book, filling 13 notebooks with observation on minute details of Margaret's behavior and development. This was her characteristics at age 6 summary. Her first teacher, widowed school teacher, just a prodigy from the very beginning. They knew, and that's a self-portrait of her at 13, looking very feminine with rosy cheeks, looking nothing like the scary woman she grew into. No, she went to, let's see, despite her family's academic background, young Margie formal schooling consisted of 2 years of kindergarten. She flunked kindergarten. Oh my goodness. A year and a year of half days in 4th grade and 6 years of high school. They did it different 100 years ago. She learned how to do carving, basketry from local artisans for part of her school, or that was just other things they learned because they were probably bohemian. Oh, yep. Most of the time she was homeschooled. Chose a career, started studying, what a coincidence, with Franz Boas, often considered the father of modern anthropology because they don't want to give the credit to a woman. Franz, the German-born father of American anthropology and Mead's Minter, challenged the prevailing 19th century race-based evolutionary approach to culture, which considered white, Western, industrialized societies the pinnacle. Did not think that they were the pinnacle of human progress. Franz Boas, separated race from cultural factors in his theories and laid the groundwork for cultural relativism. Right? You know what that is? We'll find out later. Emerging passion for anthropology and hints that Ruth Benedict's growing importance in her life. Lake Winnipesaukee. Sounds like it'd be something from Wisconsin, but it's New Hampshire. All right. So, cultural relativism, where would we be without it? Is the position
I would
that
think it
there.
has something to do with being privileged or not. That'd be
So,
relative.
it sounded so good. This isn't going to be racist. This is going to be morally relative. Oh, okay, hold on. Something tells me I'm about to meet the new boss. There's no universal standard to measure cultures. You know what? You know where I think this is going to go, and I've got to admit, I'm going at this cold learning, refreshing my mind like a lot of people. I was busy all day.
See, I would find it hard to believe that she wasn't picking up on her father's, career of, financing. I would think a lot would have to do with who has any money and who doesn't have any money.
And
But
I'm telling you,
maybe I'm wrong.
I
Not
don't
usually
know if
them.
children really realize too much about money. I think they just accept the position they're in. It's like when we look
Well,
back, I think
that
we were always comfortable. But my dad and mom
it
talk about there
depends
were
how
times,
early you need to get out on your own is when you're going to come and the reality
man,
of
there was no waiting around in my house. If somebody knocked on the door and they said, Alan, you're going to go bale hay today. And I went, okay. They asked my mom, is he old enough to bale hay? Yep. How much you paying? And I didn't have a choice. I was going to work, but that's what
yeah.
everybody did. And I was glad to have the work.
No, that would be the normalization, correct?
That's relative. That was our culture. Couldn't wait. Bale more hay. Not only could you get strong, get a suntan, and get paid, what else were you going to do?
Yep.
So, first use of the term recorded was by the philosopher and social theorist in 1924. Well, so much for this being, like it's all new because everything is brand new. And like Herodotus would say, observes on the relativity of morals, mores, virtue. If anyone, no matter who, were given the opportunity of choosing from amongst all the nations in the world that these set of beliefs which he thought best, he would inevitably, after careful consideration of their relative merits, choose that of his own country. Probably, I don't know where I would go. Probably the North Pole. Everyone without exception believes his own native customs and the religion he was brought up in to be the best. Without exception, they say. And that being so, it is unlikely that anyone but a madman would mock such things. I was trying to act crazy. There is abundant evidence that this is the universal feeling about the ancient customs of one's country. Universal, a lot of things there, they say don't do it. Hey, there's Darius the Great. He has an antidote. He illustrates the principle by inquiring about the funeral customs of the Greeks and the Calatiae, people from the extreme western and eastern fringes of the empire, respectively. They practice cremation. What? That's, you know what? I wouldn't put anything past these people, man. It's not a show.
How do you like yours done?
Oh, not cooked, not eating humans at all. You know what is a crazy unsung thing that people don't talk about enough? Let's use this example, something easy to picture in your mind. An old guy like me in 75 years, no, just kidding. 25 years, I'll be like close to 100, but God's coming back by then. He dies in his house. He has a horse in the barn, and people, he's used to being alone and not getting checked on for 3 weeks, a month. The horse starves to death because nobody to bring him straw. There's spiders, there's rats, there's cats. But the horse would rather die than eat flesh. And I eat flesh every week. I'll eat meat. And, but a horse won't. That's weird, right?
Well, not no, I don't think it's weird. It's just that's what their diet is. A pig, will eat flesh,
Yeah. Yeah, the
and
goat supposedly, that's the thing, and I used to build those
Right.
pole barns, and we would build them over hog confinement sometimes. This real large one in Batavia, Illinois, and this guy, his nickname was Slick. He'd what he'd spit, but what we'd call it was hack up a Luger, where he'd get a big one and spit it out there, and he'd go, "Watch these pigs scramble for my loogie." And sure enough, they would, man. They did. So I'm going to check now. I'm going to just go ahead and ask. Well, I see I've got a couple of emails, so I think we should look at those. And then we'll wrap it up. We've talked about Margaret Mead. Everything's a cover up. If somebody wants to do and look at those lost cause monuments, Brother Lynn, it is good to hear from him. Now, he will never, ever let me keep my mind not on the stones. Whenever there is like it's gone too long without a stones thing, he's right there. Look at that one. Man. So I don't know. I can't say he's showing that as possibly half a hemisphere of a brain is what I think that he would be implying on this. And he might have a very good argument. It could be 2/3 of a heart also, because they usually will break in threes if they're fully expanded. They'll crack a lot. Okay, that's the other side of it. Looking very much more like a heart. That it could be one of the parts of the broken heart that is begging to have some chemicals on it and see what, oh my goodness. Nice work, Lynn. Nice work. Oh my goodness. And look at that. If that was in a mountain, people would be going like, well, that's obviously a right angle that had to be machined. Other little, probably gold-filled telluride cells, because dang, now I don't know. Maybe this is happening in the brain. I don't know. I need that rock. There's more. Okay, so looks like he's got it. Looks like he's narrowed it down to being like a heart also. Like I said, good work, man.
Yeah.
This is another rock. So yeah, he's got that. He doesn't have a problem on figuring that one out. He would he's just ready to go on the rocks. I think he thinks he's got the. That's not from you, brother. Somebody wants me to buy that.
That one isn't, no.
Oh, I've already turned in my fall 20. I've already done that. So that one I don't have to worry about that email I was worried.
Ever wondered?
You ever wonder how big Africa really was? And we're gonna end it on this.
Oh, I think I sent you something on that. Yeah.
Look at the size of the distortion. Here they think there's a big dragon up there, but I don't. The true size of your continent. That is why Greenland, for example, is about the same size as Africa. What? Africa's 14. It's 14 times larger.
Yep.
That's impossible.
Mm.
Got banned in a couple of countries because of you. Don't want to blame you, but I just did. Did you know that? I didn't tell you that yet. Let's see here. Now it's going to get interesting. This happens because they use that Mercator's projection instead of the Peter's Gall. which I think one nobody will ever know what exactly it looks like, but the azimuth equilateral map is a good one. Maybe I'll show that right when I'm closing. Doesn't just stop with the land. Africa isn't only as vast, its population, with a current population of 1.4 billion. Wow, teeming with human potential. Well, I think they're fully human right now. Let's see. Locking into the crystal ball. There'll be some good places to hide from what's coming in Africa. That's for sure. Boy, I'll tell you, those girls that can carry those heavy water pots, they make it look easy, don't they? I mean, that's almost enough to get me embarrassed sometimes. I think, look at her, the girl just carrying all that water, man. Let me get one thing set here. So, brother, what if you had any scriptures that you wanted to look at? What would you consider? Because like right now, I'm free, and it's 8 o'clock, and I'm not going to go to bed until 11.
Well, I guess I didn't have any on my mind specifically.
See my
I
map?
just know.
Look how big Africa is. Oh, I'm blocking totally Africa. Where is Africa, man? Can't be blocking it at all. Africa's gone. It's nothing but a Mandela effect. Welcome, M. Craggs. Herodotus means no more than psalm. Huh? Wow. Isn't that interesting? I'm going to check that out, but intuitively that sounds interesting and worth checking out. So, yeah, well, welcome. Christina Hollis said Freemasonry messes up people. Smart Pod dropping gold. 1976, Dr. Spock married Mary Morgan. She was more than what? 40 years younger. He married an 18-year-old. Ladies and gentlemen, it is all coming down to that. It seems like it's not only, they've let us know, because it seems so distant and foreign and unusual that, the Catholics have a problem with pedophiles. And it seems there's been a black market for young women way before the people from the Me Too movement started speaking out. And it goes back a long way in that, 40 years younger. That's, let's see. I'm 65 and
That's significant.
yeah, I think that I don't think I'd feel comfortable marrying anybody under, like 45. That would be weird. And even that is kind of weird, but I'm saying that, 40, hey, I'm just saying, that it's a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon, and we're never going to tell you anything else unless Randy has something to add right now.
No, I have snow to shovel. That's all I know.
Yeah, he's got a big snowstorm. Ladies and gentlemen, we are under the judgment right now, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the morning. Until then, amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen.